20 years ago, I planted one little pot of mint by my kitchen door because I wanted fresh tea. That one plant cost me 3 summers and a flower bed I loved. By the time I gave up, it had crawled under the path, choked out my strawberries, and come back through the gravel like it owned the place, and mint was only the beginning. There are 9 plants I bought with the best intentions and spent years digging back out, and today I am going to walk you through every single one. Plus, the well-behaved, cheap alternative I wish I had planted instead. If you have gardened for any length of time, you already know the feeling. You stand at the garden center holding a $4 pot. The tag says fast-growing and low maintenance, and you think you have found a bargain. 2 years later, you are on your knees with a shovel, sweating, pulling roots out of ground you can barely reach, wondering how something that cost $4 could cost you an entire weekend every spring for the rest of your life. The plants on this list are not evil. Most of them are beautiful. That is exactly the problem. They are pretty enough to talk you into buying them, and tough enough to never leave. So let me save you the years I lost, one plant at a time. Number 9. Mint. I have to start where my own trouble started. Mint spreads by underground runners, little white roots that travel sideways just below the surface and pop up wherever they please. You plant one pot, and within 2 seasons it has marched into the strawberries, slipped under the brick path, and surfaced 6 feet away in a spot you never touched. Pulling it does almost nothing, because every fragment of root you leave behind becomes a brand new plant. I spent 3 summers losing that fight. The fix is so simple it makes me a little angry I did not know it at the start. The University of Illinois Extension recommends sinking the pot itself into the ground, so the plastic walls stop the runners from escaping. You bury a 5-gallon nursery pot, leave an inch of the rim above the soil line, and plant your mint inside it. The rim above the surface stops the runners from simply jumping over the edge. You get all the fresh tea you want and none of the invasion. If you would rather not bother with a buried pot at all, plant a clumping herb instead. Something like culinary sage or thyme stays in a tidy mound right where you put it and never wanders. And if you already have mint loose in a bed, the only real cure is to dig the whole area out, sift the soil for every root fragment by hand, and watch that spot for a full season for anything you missed. Number 8. English ivy. English ivy looks like old money. Dark, glossy evergreen, climbing up a brick wall like a college campus. I planted it against a fence because I wanted that look, and I got it for about a year. Then it climbed the fence, jumped to a tree, and started up the trunk. Ivy climbs by rootlets that grip into bark and mortar, and on a tree it forms such a heavy blanket that it can shade out the leaves and hold moisture against the bark. On the ground it runs just as hard, rooting as it goes and smothering everything beneath it. In many parts of the country it is treated as an invasive plant, though how aggressive it gets depends a lot on your region and climate. What I grow instead is Virginia creeper, which is native across most of the eastern United States. It climbs the same way, fills the same space, and in autumn it turns a deep scarlet that English ivy never gives you. If you want flowers, climbing hydrangea is another well-behaved climber that puts on lacy white blooms and stays where you train it. To get rid of ivy you already have, cut every vine climbing a tree at chest height, and again down at the base. Pull the cut section off the trunk, and let the upper part die in place. On the ground, the most reliable method I have found is to wait for moist soil, then roll it back like a carpet, getting under the roots, and keep after the regrowth for a season or 2. Number 7. Running bamboo. This is the one that taught me the most expensive lesson, because the cure involved a contractor. Running bamboo sends out underground stems called rhizomes that can travel many feet from the parent plant in a single season. A neighbor down the road planted it for a privacy screen, and within a few years it had crossed under a fence into 2 yards and started coming up through a gravel driveway. There is a reason some of the worst stories in any gardening group involve someone inheriting bamboo from a previous. If you want a fast, tall screen, plant clumping bamboo instead of running bamboo. Clumping types expand slowly outward from a tight center, a few inches a year, and they stay put. If you do not need true bamboo, an ornamental grass does the same job for far less risk. Feather reed grass stands up straight and tall like a green exclamation point and holds its shape all winter. And switchgrass gives you a soft, see-through screen that catches the light. To remove established running bamboo, you usually have to dig a trench around the whole patch, a foot or 2 deep, sever every rhizome you find, and then cut new shoots to the ground the moment they appear, week after week through the whole season, until the plant finally exhausts itself. Some gardeners sink a hard plastic or metal barrier down into that trench to stop the rhizomes from creeping back. It is a real project, and I would not wish it on anyone. Number 6. Bishop's weed. Bishop's weed, also called goutweed, is sold as a pretty variegated ground cover for shade, and I will admit the white-edged leaves do brighten a dark corner for about one season. Then it does what it does, which is spread by underground runners into a dense mat that swallows everything around it. The cruel part is that even the green leaves that revert from the variegated form keep spreading, and the tiniest piece of root left in the soil starts over. Once it is loose in a bed with other perennials, separating it out is nearly impossible because its roots weave right through the crowns of your good plants. For a shade ground cover that actually behaves, I grow foamflower, a native woodland plant with soft lobed leaves and little bottlebrush flowers in spring. Wild ginger is another good one, with broad heart-shaped leaves that form a low, polite carpet and never bully their neighbors. If bishop's weed has already taken a bed, the honest truth is often to dig out everything, including the good plants, wash the soil off the roots of the keepers, replant them somewhere clean, and watch the old spot closely for a full year. Number 5. Chinese and Japanese Wisteria. I wanted that dripping curtain of purple flowers over an arbor, the kind you see in garden magazines. So I planted Asian Wisteria, and the flowers were everything I hoped. The vine, though, was a monster. It grows thick and woody and twines with enough force to crush a trellis, bend a gutter, and pull at anything it can reach. It throws out runners and suckers far from the base, and it will climb a tree and keep climbing. It is restricted or discouraged in a number of states because of how readily it escapes gardens. So this is one to check on for your own area before you ever buy it. The answer here is a near-perfect swap. American Wisteria is native, gives you the same cascade of purple flowers, and grows with a fraction of the muscle. It stays a manageable size, it blooms on a trellis you do not have to rebuild every few years, and you can actually enjoy it instead of fighting it. If you already have an Asian Wisteria gone wild, prune it hard, and often through the growing season to keep it weak. You cut any suckers the moment they appear, and be patient, because a mature vine has years of stored energy to burn through. Whatever you do with these plants, the cheapest move you will ever make in your garden is not buying the wrong one in the first place, and the second cheapest is choosing the better behaved version when you swap it out. If this is saving you a weekend of digging down the road, consider subscribing, because this channel covers budget gardening every week, and there is a lot more like this coming. Number 4. Trumpet vine. Trumpet vine earns its keep with the hummingbirds. Those big orange trumpet flowers bring them in by the dozen, and for a season or two I thought I had planted the best thing in the yard. Then the suckers started. Trumpet vine sends up new shoots from its roots, sometimes many feet from the original plant, right in the middle of the lawn, the vegetable bed, anywhere. The vines themselves grow thick and heavy, and given a few years they can work into fence posts and lift the edge of a patio. It is the kind of plant you stop admiring and start managing. For the same hummingbird show without the wreckage, I grow native trumpet honeysuckle. It gives you clusters of red tubular flowers the hummingbirds love. It climbs politely on a trellis, and it does not send suckers charging across the yard. To deal with an established trumpet vine, you have to be relentless about cutting every sucker as it appears, mowing the ones that come up in the lawn, and digging the ones in your beds. Because each one you ignore feeds the root system and makes the plant stronger. Some gardeners eventually give up and remove the whole root mass, which is a serious dig and rarely a one-afternoon job. Number 3. Vinca minor. Vinca minor, sometimes called periwinkle, is sold as an easy evergreen ground cover for shade, and it does exactly what the tag promises, which turns out to be the problem. The trailing stems root wherever they touch the ground, so the plant marks stop at the edge of the bed. It rolls into the lawn, slips into the woods, it rolls into the lawn, and weaves a mat so dense that nothing else can get a start. In a lot of regions, it has spread well beyond gardens into natural areas, which tells you everything about how determined it is. When I want a low evergreen carpet for shade now, I plant a native ground cover instead. Allegheny spurge, a native cousin of the common pachysandra, gives you handsome mottled leaves and stays where you intend it. There are native wild gingers and sedges that do the same gentle job. If you have vinca loose and spreading, the most effective approach I know is to cut it low, then pull or roll the mat back when the soil is moist so you get the rooted stems, and revisit the edges for a season to catch the runners trying to escape. Number 2. Chameleon plant. This one I will warn you about with real feeling, because it is the single hardest plant I have ever tried to remove. Chameleon plant, sometimes sold under the name Houtunia, has pretty heart-shaped leaves splashed with red, cream, and green, and a tag that calls it a colorful ground cover. What the tag does not say is that it spreads by brittle underground runners that snap into pieces when you pull them, and every piece grows back. You can dig and feel like you got it all, and it returns the next spring like you never touched it. It also has a strong, odd smell when the leaves are crushed that not everyone enjoys. If you want low color in a damp or partly shaded spot, plant a clump-forming perennial that stays put instead. A well-behaved hardy geranium or a tidy clump of coral bells gives you color and texture without the territorial ambition. For removal, honestly, your best tool is containment from the start. The same buried pot trick that works for mint, sunk deep, because once chameleon plant is loose in open soil, clearing it can take repeated digging over more than one season and a great deal of patience. Number 1. Ribbon grass. I am ending with ribbon grass because it fooled me the longest. It is an ornamental grass with crisp white and green striped blades, and in a pot or a magazine photo, it looks like the height of good taste. In the ground, it is anything but tasteful. Ribbon grass spreads by aggressive rhizomes, the same sideways underground stems that make running bamboo such a nightmare, and it forms a thick colony that crowds out neighboring perennials and is genuinely difficult to pull. It is one of those plants that looks refined and behaves like a weed. The good news is that the world of ornamental grasses is full of beautifully behaved options that stay in a clump. Little bluestem is a native grass that turns gorgeous shades of copper and wine in fall and never runs. The variety of feather reed grass, often labeled Karl Forster, forms a neat upright clump that holds its shape through winter and earns its spot in any bed. Either one gives you all the movement and texture of an ornamental grass with none of the spreading. To remove ribbon grass you already have, dig the entire clump out, sift the soil for stray rhizomes, and keep an eye on the spot, because like the others on this list, it comes back from whatever you miss. So those are the 9 plants I spent years digging back out, and the better, cheaper choices I wish I had made the first time. If there is one lesson tying all of them together, it is this. The tag at the garden center is trying to sell you a plant, not warn you about it, and the words fast-growing and low maintenance often mean the same thing as hard to get rid of. Before you buy anything that spreads, take 10 seconds to find out how it spreads, whether it is a problem in your area, and what the well-behaved alternative is. That 10 seconds is the cheapest insurance in all of gardening. The plant you choose with your eyes open will still be there in 20 years giving you joy, instead of giving you a shovel and a sore back every single spring. If you found this useful, there are more stories like it on the channel.